This is the story of Enrico Riccobene, also known as Ricky Riccobene. There's not that much documentation of Enrico Riccobene. However, based on our sources, we will go over as much as we can based on his life. Enrico Riccobene was the beloved son of Mario and Angelina Riccobene. He had a sister named Karen. He also had an uncle named Robert Ricabini, and grew up in the South Philadelphia region. And a lot of his family relatives, the ones that we mentioned, especially the men, were reported mobsters in the Philadelphia community. Harry the Hunchback Riccobene dated back until the glory days of the mob during the reign of Salvatore Sabella, the first Philadelphia godfather that has been reported throughout many historians. Therefore, the Riccobene family had several ties to many different mobsters throughout several decades, especially with Harry the Hunchback and Robert Ricabini. Enrico Riccobene, as you can see, this is one of the only few photos we are able to obtain of him. As you can see, he has this similar look of the Hollywood actor from Back to the Future, Crispin Glover, with the very long hair, as you can see from the photo comparisons. We don't have much description of his personality, but we'll go over it as much depth and detail as possible. He was a young entrepreneur and he had his own business in the Jeweler Rose down in the center city of Philadelphia. But unfortunately, he will have a very tragic fate as a result of the whole Philadelphia crime fairy era, as we'll go over the whole backstory between the Scarfo and Riccobene faction. Enrico Riccobene owned his own jewelry store in Jewelers Row in Philadelphia, and he had nothing to do with the mafia. However, he carried the name Riccobene, and therefore he was targeted behind enemy lines. Mark's uncle Philip Leonetti, Salvatore Salvi Testa, and Lawrence Molino arrived at Jewelers Row. It was around Christmas time, and Leonetti was looking for a watch for his girlfriend. The gang would notice that Enrico Riccobene was running one of the jewelry stores. Enrico Riccobene made sure that the doors were locked so that customers needed to be buzzed in to get accessed. When Leonetti and Testa tapped onto the window, Enrico Riccobene realized who these mafia soldiers were, and he panicked. The street soldiers would glare through the window and continuously banged on the door. For this reason, Enrico walked to the back of the store where he could not be seen. He saw and picked up a loaded gun. At this moment, Enrico Riccobene refuses to point the gun at the gang members. Instead, he points the gun at his own head and he shot himself. He died on the scene. The tragic death of Enrico Riccobene would send shockwaves to the Riccobene family and the world that was watching, including Mark Scarfo, based on the news you will see here.
Enrico Riccobene killed himself right after he saw Philip staring at him through a store window. And when Pat the cat failed to show up for a hit, Nicky made sure Pat took the fall and...
Jewelers Row was bustling with holiday business today, but merchants on the block remained jumpy. This closed jewelry store was a reminder of yesterday's suicide by 27-year-old Enrico Riccobene, the nephew of reputed mob figure Harry Riccobene, whose faction is currently at war with other segments of South Philadelphia's trigger-happy underworld. Police sources tell me that Enrico, who owned this store, the place where he shot himself yesterday afternoon, had no apparent business connections with the crime syndicate. But police sources tell me Enrico was frightened and had been told by lawmen as well as mob figures that he was a potential target for a hit. Just 9 days ago, his uncle Robert Riccobene, known by police to be involved in mob gambling activities, was assassinated. Enrico Riccabene's father, Mario, and Mario's brother, Harry, are in prison now. And though Enrico is said to be clean, his bloodline apparently made him a marked man. Few merchants would talk about the latest Riccobene to die.
He seemed like a gentleman and a young man minding his own business, and that's all I can say at this time. I don't want to say too much more.
The theory by authorities is this guy was intimidated to death, that he operated a clean business.
I wouldn't have know anything about his business.
Police are certain that the pressure, stress, and danger of being a Riccobene these days was too much for Enrico, even if his business was not the business that made other members of his family so infamous. Vernon Odom, Channel 6 Action News, on Jewelers Row.
Harry Riccobene was very devastated, distraught, and depressed over the news of his nephew and other members, including his own brother, Robert Riccobene. His raw emotions caused and convinced him to surrender to what would be Harold Riccabene's assets and lucrative operations. Around this time, Scarfo was elated about the tragedies and was being released from prison, as you can see here. He was free, lucrative, and a cheerful man. However, in the life of the mob, happiness is very short-lived. As a result of the tragedy, Enrico Anthony Riccobene lost his life at the age of 27. We will also show you his obituary that's been listed on the reported news from the Philadelphia Inquirer. And as we also mentioned, Nicky Scarfo's son, Mark Scarfo, would share a similar fate like Enrico Riccobene. He too, who also dealt with the pressures of being affiliated with the mobsters, tried to take his own life. He did survive, however, he was in a coma for the rest of his life and would tragically lose it in the most recent years and never get out of his coma until he succumbed to his injuries. Therefore, this will also lead a tragic story of those taking their own lives, even though they were not part of the whole mafia. It goes to show you how tragic the fate of how it surrounds families and broken homes. Nicky Scarfo and Enrico Riccobene will one day share the same fate of dying in prison after both of them have faced several RICO charges and being sentenced to prison for the rest of their lives. Each of them will lose a family member of taking their own lives and will lose friends and family members as a result of their faction of war. Enrico's father, Mario Sonny Riccobene, would outlive the war. However, he became an informant and turned against his own brother, Harry the Hunchback Riccobene. After convicting his own brother in jail and was able to walk free, he did miss the style of the life. When he decided to go back into his old criminal days, the criminal underworld has no short-term memory, as you can see here based on these reports.
It happened at about 7:10 last night. Patrons of the Brooklawn Diner noticed a car in the parking lot, its engine racing red hot and smoke pouring from it.
Nobody wanted to go really up close because the car was like smoking and making a lot of noise.
And the underneath of it was red?
It was red. It was red because the guy's foot was in the accelerator. So I don't know how long he was in there.
Inside the station wagon was the body of a man, his head bent forward. He had been shot in the head. Bullet casings were found at the scene, and today investigators returned to search for the gun, but none was found. The man's driver's license was reportedly issued in North Carolina. Police have a tentative identification, but have not yet released it. And then I thought, well, I guess I know where 60-year-old Mario Sonny Riccobene, a one-time member of the Bruno Scarfo organized crime family, has been identified as the man murdered last night in the parking lot of the Brooklawn Diner. Riccobene had been shot several times in the head as he sat in this parked station wagon. The driver's side window shattered by gunfire. Riccobene's foot on the accelerator, the engine running red hot.
Given the circumstances of the killing, we are obviously investigating an organized crime connection.
Riccobene had been in the federal witness protection program from 1984 until '89, when, according to the FBI, he was kicked out for habitually violating security procedures. Riccobene returned to live in rural Gloucester County with his elderly mother.
I have to tell you, my experience has been that some people in the witness protection program do very foolish things.
Riccobene is the half-brother of Harry the Hunchback Riccobene, who is serving time for the 1982 murder of Frank Monte. In '84, Sonny Riccobene began cooperating with police against other mobsters, including his half-brother, and at that time entered witness protection. Last night's murder here in Brooklawn came 3 weeks after another murder in Audubon, New Jersey. In that case, a reputed West Coast gang enforcer, Rod Colombo, was shot in the head as he sat in a parked car.
We're looking at the similarities, but we have no reason other than those circumstantial similarities to think that they're connected at this point.
While Riccobene was no longer in the federal witness protection program, law enforcement officials kept tabs on him. They knew where he was. Obviously, Riccobene's enemies also knew where to find him. I'm Kathy Gandolfo, Channel 6 Action News, Camden, New Jersey.
Mario Ricabini would be buried along with his son and his wife, as you can see here in this photo. Enrico Riccobene would pass away in December of 1983. Mario Ricabini would pass away in the year of 1993. And Angelina, Mario's wife and Enrico's mother, would pass away in the year of 2010. And all three of these family members are buried besides each other in the whole Riccobene family plot. Alongside them will be also Harry the Hunchback Riccobene with his family members and their parents. This concludes our story on the tragic fate of Enrico Anthony Riccobene. Staying positive doesn't mean you have to be happy all the time. It means that even on hard days, you know that there are better ones coming. Due to YouTube policies, this video cannot be monetized when it comes to the subject of suicide. However, we made this video because we feel that it is crucial that people should be aware of these kind of stories and how it's impacted humanity. We do accept donations on Cash App to username. Any donation that we receive for this video will be donated to the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, previously known as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Therefore, we can prevent tragedies like Mark Scarfo and Enrico Riccobene and many loved ones that we know. Suicide doesn't end the pain, it just passes it on to someone else. Please be healthy, stay safe, God bless you, and thank you for your time. We love you.
Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and check out more content. Feel free to give us your feedback and suggestions on who we should do next in the comments. This is Infinitely Productions. We love ya.